Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. It's Gill, isn't it? From,
Thank you. Yeah, pleasure.
From Zero Waste Leeds. So she's come to tell us a little bit about Zero Waste Leeds and what it is and how it works. So if you just begin by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your background, we'll start there.
Yeah, lovely. So I'm Gill Coupland from Zero Waste Leeds, and Zero Waste Leeds is a project that's run by our social enterprise, which I run together with my colleague Rob Greenland, which is Social Business Brokers. So we're the social enterprise behind Zero Waste Leeds, and we've done various other social projects over the years. So what we say is that we bring a wide range of people together around complex social issues and find solutions for them. So we've done work in the past in health and social care. We have a project that we call Empty Homes Doctor, which is about bringing empty properties across Leeds back into use. And then a couple of years ago, Rob had a little bit of time to figure out the next direction of travel for us. And we both naturally have an interest in waste, and a lot of our work actually comes from things that we're genuinely interested in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we looked at various things like travel and transport, and but waste was something that sort of rose to the top for both of us, and there seemed to be a real lots of opportunities to do something really great in Leeds. So our networks and connections in Leeds are amazing, and so together that's what we've launched, Zero Waste Leeds, and we've done various different projects over the couple of years that we've been running, and we have a lot of what we do is across social media. So we have about 10,000 followers across all of our social media now. So we're really building a solid community of like-minded people.
Okay, I see. So did you already know Rob before, and then from meeting each other, you've kind of built this Zero Waste Leeds idea then?
Yeah, so Rob and I have known each other for about 15 years now. And when we first met, he was a social enterprise business advisor, and I was running a charity for older people in South Leeds. And it was at a time when we were being pushed in Leeds to look at creating services to meet the sort of new demands of older people. So older people fed back to the council that, as they got older, they would prefer to do everything they could to stay at home rather than go into a care home. But the infrastructure didn't really exist to enable them to do that. So there needed to be lots of new services like handyman or handy person services, gardening services, cleaning and care services. And Rob was giving social enterprise business advice around those areas, and I was running the scheme. So we met, and I started off actually one of the first community interest companies, which is a type of social enterprise, through meeting Rob. So I started Angels Housekeeping, which is still going today, and we provide domiciliary care services and care services for older people across Leeds. So that's how we originally met, and we've been working together as social business brokers for the last 10 years.
Okay, brilliant. And so in terms of kind of the Zero Waste Leeds, how does it work, or who do you work with? Is it with the council? Is it with other organisations? How does that work?
So Zero Waste Leeds, what we are doing is creating a movement of people across Leeds who want to come together and live a more sustainable life. And we think that is something that we can do really effectively together, because sometimes, when you're at home, I don't know, doing your bit of composting or gathering your stuff together to take the charity shop, you kind of think these are really tiny actions that I'm doing on my own. But actually, if you join us at Zero Waste Leeds and you realise that there's thousands of people across the city who are doing the same thing, you feel like you're part of something big and that is really making a difference. So that's how we've kicked off at Zero Waste Leeds. We were really fortunate to get some funding from Joseph Rowntree Foundation initially to get this up and running and to figure out where we could have the most impact. And then we've sort of been project-based since then. So we worked with, there's a national campaigning charity called Hubbub that work on environmental projects, and they approached us to work with them on Leeds by Example, which is about recycling on the go in Leeds city centre. And it's a really great idea because it does fill a gap for a lot of people. You know, if you're really passionate about recycling at home and you've got all your different recycling things, and you take your glass to the bottle bank and you take your textiles to the textile bank, and now more than ever, lots of offices and businesses are giving their employees the opportunity to do that whilst they're at work. And then the gap was while you were out and about in the city centre, there was nowhere other than a general rubbish bin to put your, if you used one, your plastic bottle. So the Leeds, for example, project introduced into Leeds city centre the orange coffee cup bins for plastic lined coffee cups and drinks cups, and then the orange bins for plastic bottles and cans and plastic, say, sandwich packets and recycling. So it gave you the opportunity to recycle whilst you're out and about. So I think people are really quite familiar with particularly the orange bins, because they can be, not all of them are like this, but some of them are like, they sort of smile at you.
Yeah.
And we learned so much about the life of the city, honestly, from working on that project. You know, it doesn't sound interesting, but it's so interesting. Auditing the bins and how they are used and why some bins are really successful and where you need to move the bins to make them more successful, and watching people, how they use them. What's really clear is that people, they make a really snap decision. They literally walk past a bin, and sometimes it's the first one they come to. It doesn't matter whether it's recycling or not, it goes in. So you kind of watch the way the city works, and then you have to think about where to position your bins to make them most successful. So we did a load of work on that. Recycling rates on the go were hugely increased, and there was an over 80% recognition of the whole project. When we did a survey at the end, 80% of the people surveyed said they'd heard about the project and they were familiar with the new orange and yellow bins. So that was our sort of launch project that really took off, and it really brought us to the attention of lots of people. And of course, it's still ongoing. The bins are still there, but the city centre looks very different to how it did 6 months ago. So so that what the Leeds, for example, project is continuing, and our plan before the COVID pandemic was to do a lot more work in businesses to raise awareness of the recycling facilities and to help businesses adapt to the demands from their staff for more recycling facilities. But we're not able to do that in the way that we wanted to, but going into businesses to talk to people. So we're doing a series of lunchtime lives with local businesses. So they might be local businesses that have sustainability at their core, like some of the people who run the refill shops, for example, or they might be local businesses who are really trying really hard to offer sustainable products or to offer ways to be more sustainable to their staff. So there are some amazing ones across the city. There are some organisations that have green teams within their staff teams, and so they're tasked with doing various different things and maybe making a pledge to be more sustainable, to buy more sustainable products, or to, I don't know, share their lunch, use reusable bottles, not use reusable coffee cups. So there's still loads of activity going on. We've just had to adapt it really for the new world that we're living in now.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I think that those bins that you mentioned, they're so visible to the eye, like they're so obvious in the city centre, and it was one of the first things I noticed when I came to England. So I'm not English. Back at home in Portugal, there's a lot of recycling bins out and about, and it's really normal to see them. And when I came to England, the first thing I noticed was lack of them, until I moved to Leeds and more recently started seeing these bins come up, and they've been quite, and it's very noticeable, which I think is really important. And it's probably why you mentioned that the increase has gone up, because people see them in all of these little corners in the city, so they know if they just wait maybe 5 more minutes when they walk down the road, they'll find a bin to put it in.
Find another one. Yeah. No, exactly. And that's the feedback we got, and people, they did respond really well to them. And we had, at the beginning of the campaign when we launched it, we had these 2 bins. They were named Gordon Binnett and Alan Binnett, which if you came from Leeds, that would mean something to you. But anyway, and when you fed them the plastic bottle or can, they burped and bubbles came out. So it was so amazing. We were on Briggate for a few weeks doing the initial promotion, and people were coming down just to see the bins. So, you know, the bins matter, the smiley bin matters, the colour of the bin matters, and certainly the position of the bin matters. But I'm so pleased that you recognise them.
Oh, definitely. I think it's great. And so in terms of kind of the work that you've done so far, what would you say has been the biggest accomplishment that you've been able to do?
Yeah, well, we're really delighted with Leeds by Example. And as I said, that's continuing. But our sort of, the initiative that we are spending a huge amount of our time on now, which is something that we sort of proposed ourselves. So it's the Leeds School Uniform Exchange. I don't know whether you've heard of that. So again, this was something that came from our own personal experience. So Rob was at his local school and he saw the caretaker throwing a load of school uniform, it was lost property actually, in the skip. Oh. And you see, the thing is, when you work in waste, you're just like, please don't let that happen. You know, so he was straight in there, gathered it all up, brought it home, washed it, sorted it, and found a way to redistribute it. So that kind of happened. My daughter is at school, and we have a school parents Facebook page, which is not specifically for school uniform swapping, but that happens, and it's really active on our page. So we were kind of thinking, you know, could there be some sort of citywide school uniform exchange where we could get this to be normal for Leeds, that people look to use secondhand as a first choice? And we were invited to a big round the table meeting, lots of different organisations from across the city. It was organised by Leeds City Council, and it was brilliant. It was really inspirational. So we met people there who were already doing uniform exchanging. We met someone from another local authority who was doing it in a particular way, that worked in Kirklees. And we met lots of people who, you know, also thought it was a great idea, and wanted to push it forward for schools in their area. So we came away from that meeting and came up with a proposal. And we were really, really fortunate that Leeds City Council, through Children and Families, Financial Inclusion, and also Jimbo's fund from Leeds Community Foundation, have funded us to do 3 different streams of work, essentially. So one of the things that we're doing is mapping all of the school uniform reuse schemes across the whole of Leeds. And we are finding new ones every day, because some of them are not formally run by the school. Some of them are just run by interested parents who've got a Facebook group or a WhatsApp group and are busy exchanging between themselves. So there's I think there's 60 examples of how school uniform reuse is happening across the city on the map already. And again, it's changing every day, and we are doing call-outs for people to let us know. Mm-hmm. So we said we'd do that, so we'd map it. And behind that sits a searchable database, which we're just refining now. Because one of the challenges that we've discovered is that there are places in Leeds where there's a surplus of secondhand school uniform, and other places in Leeds that really need it. And what you need to do to match the two up is find out what colours each school is wearing. So there'll be a searchable database. So if you can't find the uniform you need locally, you'll be able to search on the database to find another school that uses the same colour as you, mm-hmm. and if they've got a scheme. And then the other thing is, again, with regard to surplus, what seems to be the case is there's no shortage of donations. So we need to challenge that and maybe work out whether there's some stigma around having secondhand school uniform, and how we can change hearts and minds, really, to get over that so that we can use this existing resource. But also how we can help people across the city who've got surplus get it to where it needs to be. So we might need local distribution centres, which is something we're looking at now. Mm-hmm. So we've got the map and the database going on. We're also putting together an inspiration guide, it's giving live examples of the way that schemes are being run across the city to hopefully inspire other people to set something up and to demonstrate that it doesn't have to be complicated, but to pack it full of advice and tips from people who are running schemes and feeding all that into us now, so that, you know, you know what the hurdles are and how to overcome them before you even get there. So there's the map and the inspiration guide, and then we've set up a Facebook group also to connect people across the city who are running schemes, who want to run a scheme, who have uniform to give away, or putting a call out for uniform that they want. So we've got over 650 members of that already. That's been really brilliant. Loads of interaction on that. So I would say it's probably the most exciting project that we're running now, and it's something that it's something that we do at Social Business Brokers is try and understand what the issue is, bring loads of people together, and then try and think of a way that we can solve it on a city level. And it's working really well. And it's amazing because we've done some research, and the cost of school uniform for all children who are starting school new this year, so that's all starting primary school and secondary school this year, across Leeds, only Leeds, is £6.4 million. It's a huge amount of money. And our research shows that there is so much great quality secondhand school uniform out there, particularly this year, because a lot of children haven't been at school since March, and it's not going to fit them come September. So, if we can get that resource used first, save people a ton of money, but also the carbon impact of clothing is huge. So we've got a really interesting stat. I've written it down because I can't remember it. So if every new starter at school in Leeds this year had just one second-hand shirt or blouse, it would save 122,000 kilograms CO2 equivalent, which is the same as the emissions from driving 25 times around the world. And that's just one shirt or blouse. So the environmental impact you can have by choosing second-hand first is massive. So, again, that's a collective effort. If we can get people doing this so they know where to find it, they know that's what they want, they know it's going to save them money, they know it's really environmentally friendly and sustainable, and they know loads of other people across Leeds are all doing it. That's where this creating a movement and feeling like we're all part of something starts to become really meaningful.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's so interesting you mentioned that, because I remember as a kid in school, I would always expect a new uniform, and it was just the norm. And it's like you said, I think there is a bit of a stigma around that, buying secondhand stuff, even secondhand books for school and things like that. And a lot of people sometimes forget that clothes do have that carbon footprint, and they do have an impact, and they forget that that's part of the problem. But I think also what we're seeing a lot is now people going to thrift shops, doing clothes swaps with friends, and it's becoming more normal and more of a common thing to do. And people are wanting to be more resourceful with their clothes and making sure they have only what they need. So I think this is a really interesting way of upping that a little bit more in terms of school uniforms, something that people don't think about. And I am following along on social media and everything to do with this, and I actually didn't even think about it until I saw you guys mentioning it. So I know it's good to know that it's actually going really well for you.
Yeah, the second-hand market in Leeds, all the charity shops, is really vibrant. And so we seem not to have a stigma over having second-hand clothes, but it kind of seems to exist when it comes to uniform. So we just need to change people's mindset, I think. And even my local charity shop, which is absolutely tiny, it's like someone's front room, it's tiny, and they have a little postcard in the window, and it tells you how much they've raised every month, and it's usually between £6,000 and £7,000 a month in a little tiny charity shop. So it's clear that there is a big second-hand economy, and we need to extend that to school uniform. And I think part of that is about getting that school uniform to where it needs to be. So we are in discussions with a charity shop in South Leeds at the moment to see if they will be a distribution point. So we need to make it easy for people to donate uniform, because you don't want to have to trail it around different places, spend ages figuring out where to go, and then they're only open once every 3 weeks that you can drop it off at the school. We need to make it really easy for people to donate that uniform that doesn't fit anymore, and then we need to make it really easy for people who want that or need it to go in and get it. Just call into your local charity shop, they'll have a rail there, and, you know, just take what you want. Why wouldn't you use that resource? I mean, I know it's sometimes different. My friend has twin boys, and she just shakes her head because their trousers particularly are just shredded by the end of term. Yeah. Whereas, you know, because they're playing football I know this is stereotypical, but anyway, they're playing football and rugby. Whereas my daughter's sitting discussing eyelashes and eyebrows, you know, so her stuff is absolutely pristine at the end of term, just that she grows out of it. So, you know, some of this stuff is in fantastic condition, and it can save you a fortune of money. If the average cost of a uniform per child per year in Leeds is £348, over £348, and that includes, you know, shoes they grow out of, stuff that they grow out of throughout the year. You know, sometimes as a parent, it's like a nightmare if your child's just grown out of the pair of trousers by Easter because you've got one more term that they're only going to fit for a term. Well, just go and get a second-hand pair. And, you know, it might cost you nothing or next to nothing. And, you know, it's great for the environment. So we just need to get this as something that we all do in Leeds. And again, that's about the being in it together. Let's just do it in Leeds. Let's just all talk about that we're doing it, that we want to do it, and why we're doing it, and just get on with it, because it's clear that resource is there.
Definitely. And I think it's exactly like you said, it's making it easy for people to do it, because if there is anything that is inconvenient, people just decide to go the easier way and just buy something new. And I guess that's with everything really, in terms of trying to be more sustainable. If it's easier to go buy a packet of rice rather than refilling, then people just opt for the easy way out. So would you say that this project at the moment with the uniforms, is this your next goal, or do you have any other kind of little projects on the side that are happening as well?
Yeah, so we've always got things in the pipeline. So there's another project about glass recycling, so to improve glass recycling rates across the city. And what's interesting, and I think there's lots of reasons for this, but glass recycling rates have gone up during lockdown. So that could be because we're not going out to bars and restaurants, so we are genuinely drinking more at home. We might also just be drinking more at home, but there we are. We've got a little bit more time to think about our recycling, to drop things off at the bottle bank. So recycling rates have gone up, and if we've got into those really good habits, how can we encourage people to carry on? Because glass is amazingly recyclable. It's a fantastic resource. We have a closed loop system in Yorkshire where it's collected in Leeds. It doesn't go very far down the motorway to be recycled, and then it's used again by the plant next door to turn it into glass jars with products in them. So there's a great local closed loop for that. So look out for more chat about glass recycling.
Brilliant. I think that's a really important one. Actually, we have an issue in our place where the people around here say you can put it in the bin with everything else, but we don't really trust that. So we're having to kind of collect our glass, and then after 2 weeks go down and find we have a glass bank nearby, but we cycle. So having to carry bags with glass and recycling is a bit of a nightmare. So that's good to know that it might improve in that sense. So moving on a little bit then, in terms of just kind of zero waste in general, I guess maybe a lot of people don't even know what zero waste is. So how would you kind of define that? How would you define zero waste?
Yeah, so I mean, our ambition to have a zero waste city by 2030 is, you know, probably impossible, but it's a great sort of starting point to have. And what I think is that there are some amazing zero wasters internationally. Like there's a woman who can show you the waste her family create in 1 year, and it fits into a jar about this big, because everything they do is extreme. Mm-hmm. And that's hard to do. But, you know, there's lots we can learn from people like that. So what we think is, and it's not the cliche of everyone's on a journey, but, you know, just the thing is, just start somewhere. Just start somewhere. And usually, because we've been on the same journey absolutely over the last 2 years, we find out new things every day that we can build into our daily lives. Mm. Just make a start and come together with us at Zero Waste Leeds and find out what everybody else is doing. and you will get better at it. So we're just doing something at the moment about, so during lockdown, what a really common thing that people have done is add a real clear out of stuff from the house. So, and then they're making those donations to charity shops now, and we've got a list of textile banks and charity shops and places that you can take your clothes and other things that you want to donate. So you've had a clear out, and lots of people are still working from home. So how can we help people to just live a more sustainable life at home? So during lockdown, we did loads of work on composting and food waste, and people absolutely loved it. So because garden waste bin collection stopped for a while during lockdown, loads of people were really interested in composting, have started doing that and have carried on doing that. So, but, it's not for everybody if you've not got a garden, although there are ways and means. But, cutting down on food waste, really simple tips like, and it's a bit boring, but you know what I mean? It's totally doable. Do a meal plan. And from my perspective, if you've got children, involve your children in that, because they're more likely to eat what they've decided they themselves want to eat. So do a meal plan. Do your shopping list from that plan. Just buy what's on your list. So you're not buying anything that you don't need. And so that cuts down on waste straight away. And be really creative with your leftovers. And again, people, when we put things like this on our social media, loads of people make suggestions about things that they're doing, which is fantastic. And we learn from that all the time. So, just start somewhere. Then could you move on to refilling your washing up liquid, or using a reusable pan scrubber instead of the plastic and foam ones, so you sort of you move along, and we all learn from each other, and then that spreads to other areas of your life. So the bottle bank thing, for example, if you get into a habit of calling past on your way to work, you know where your local one is, or where the one is that's easy to call past on your way to work, and you just take a couple of bottles each time you pass. Just get into these new habits. It's a bit like, when the carrier bag charge came in, and we all found it really difficult. And then, so you had your bag, and then you forgot your bag. Or you had your bag and it was in the back of your car, and you got to the till and you forgot your bag. But eventually, it becomes part of what you do.
Habit.
And just absolutely habit. And also, when you look back, you think, how did I ever do anything different? Think it's just learning from each other, making a start, and staying in those good habits. And then they just sort of naturally permeate to other areas of your life. So one of the themes that we've got is, because people are working from home, a home office. So, if you are going to permanently work from home and you need maybe a more comfortable office chair, there's Rework Office Furniture in Leeds, which recycles office furniture. So you could get a second-hand chair, amazing, save yourself a fortune, get a brilliant one. Do you use recycled paper? Do you use recycled ink? Again, saves you a fortune and is much more environmentally sustainable. There's loads of things you can do, and that's what's so brilliant about being part of something, that there's just so much to learn from each other.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. I think it's interesting because, like the bags for the supermarket, it's been the same, I find, with bottles. So people now always have reusable bottles. They have their bottle they have with them all the time. And things like coffee cups as well has become a big thing, because obviously now coffee shops give you 50p off or whatever it is if you bring your own cup. And I've started to see a lot of people do that. And even in supermarkets now, a lot of the fruit and veg aren't in plastic anymore, so you can bring your own bags. So it's interesting to have seen this shift, which has been quite quick as well, of small things that people can do. And even with the refilling the laundry detergent that you said, a lot of people don't realize, but it actually comes out a lot cheaper. And usually the ones that you refill with are already eco-friendly or better for the environment. So, you get 2 in 1 in that. So obviously, you've mentioned a few easy things, but what would you say, or where could people go if they wanted to do more and wanted to get things a little bit more complicated? Where would it be best to start, or where to go for information in that?
There's loads of resources online, and there's a great Facebook page run by Lisa's council called Leeds Recycle, so people can join that. There's loads of hints and advice on there, but there's a ton of information out there. And the other thing is to ask the questions. So if there's something that you don't know, an improvement you want to make, sometimes you're just inspired by what you see every day, but ask the questions. People are so happy to help and support other people who feel like them. And it is interesting what you were saying about reusable bottles and cups, for example. I mean, you never saw that even a couple of years ago, and it felt a bit weird. And you start doing it, go in and asking for your bottle filling up with water feels a bit strange. But then you see other people doing it and you start to do it, and it just becomes normal, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And then the other thing about, plastic reduction in supermarkets, that's because we as consumers all get together and we demand that from the suppliers. The refill shops and the plastic free in supermarkets, and that you can do refill in some supermarkets, that's there because we all come together and we demand that. Mm-hmm. It's like we were there's an issue with recycling black plastic. And so people on our social media got in touch and said, what about these Tresemme black shampoo bottles? And when we looked into it and we got in touch with Unilever, that is one of their brands, and their innovation is, the reason why black plastic is really difficult to recycle is because the process that plastic goes through to be recycled has an infrared scanner in it, and the infrared black absorbs the infrared, so it's technically recyclable, but the process doesn't recognize it. So they've come up with a new coating for their bottles that will mean that the infrared can pick it up and it can be recycled. And that just got loads of interest on our site. People are like, oh, that's so, that's really amazing. But that's consumer demand. Mm-hmm. We can all learn from each other, but we can also support each other and demand that things change, mm-hmm. and that new products and services are created to meet our needs. So that's another real good reason for us all to come together. But I don't think there's nothing better than learning from each other. And honestly, I'm inspired by different people every single day.
Yeah, I think as well, when in your family you start to spread the word, that's probably one of the best ways, because then they spread the word to their friends, and they kind of see you do it. Because I don't know, for me it's become really second nature to do a lot of things that people don't normally do, but because it's so second nature to me and it's so normal, I find that also people come to me for advice a bit more, just because they think, oh, she knows what she's doing, because she doesn't hide it or feel ashamed about it or whatever it might be. So I think that having the confidence to do it just because it's the right thing, it'll just draw more attention as well. Like we've started to refill shampoo bottles now and conditioners at local shops, and all our detergents and everything as well. And even with the social media page for Zero Waste Leeds, it's been interesting to learn new things, like if it's stretchy plastic, it can be recycled. I had no idea about that. So even the people who I know a lot about zero waste, they still learn a lot from social media pages and people that they follow. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, we're exactly the same. Some of the stuff that we share, we've learned from other people. But you're absolutely right. There's nothing more powerful than influencing the people your family and friends who who admire you and understand, and maybe live a similar life to you, see you doing things. Mm-hmm. You can be massively, so each individual person, each individual Zero Waste Leeds follower, 10,000 of us, can be influential over the people that they know. And I think that's the most powerful, because you're the most trusted person, aren't you? Mm-hmm. To get those ideas and new habits across. People see you doing it and they copy it.
Exactly. And even just giving it as a present as well is a really good way of initiating that. So like I've given a lot of like beeswax wraps to people, because people don't think there's a replacement for cling film, and even these like little mesh bags for the supermarket. Now my whole family uses it, so it's also a really good present, because it's a sustainable present and you're helping them improve that a little bit as well. Mm-hmm. So in terms of kind of as a community at the moment in Leeds, what would you say we need to do to improve? What would you say is the area we need to improve in the most at the moment?
Well, we still do create a huge amount of waste. I mean, one of the really shocking statistics is the 4,000 tonnes of textile waste that ends up in our black bins every year. And that is, it feels to me like a really simple thing. We need to get across that textiles don't belong in your black bin. And there are so many places across the city that you can take those textiles. So and again, this shows what you don't know, even when you've worked in waste for a long time. So I thought when you were taking something to a textile bank, and it does say in a lot of them, good quality donations needed. But if you've got the odd sock or, tights with holes in, they can still go in that textile bank, because some of the stuff in that bank will be sorted and it will be reworn. Some of it will go abroad to be reworn, but some of it is turned into other products. I didn't know that you could put an odd sock and holy tights in a textile bank, but you totally can. And they become things like mattress stuffing and soundproofing. And again, we talk about removing the barriers. So we've got a map of all the textile banks, all the charity shops, all the repair organisations, all the clothes exchange. So you can remove the barrier that you don't know where your nearest one is, or you don't know where to go, what to do, because it is all there on our map. Yeah, so glass recycling, I'd be really delighted if we can get that off the ground. Textile banks, if we can just stop that 4,000 tonnes of textiles going in the black bin, stop that happening, and get secondhand school uniform the first choice. I mean, secondhand just generally. There are so many amazing furniture reuse groups, the Revive shops at Kirkstone Seacroft Tip, Rework Office Furniture, all the charity shops, the clothes exchange. The most sustainable thing you can do if you want something new is to buy that thing secondhand. And you see, this is something I've discovered quite recently, that a lot of the Leeds-based charity shops, so for example, St Gemma's, which supports St Gemma's Hospice, which is in Moortown, you don't just have to go to the shop. They've got an online presence. So a lot of these small charity shops have got an online eBay shop, and they are amazing. They're an absolute treasure trove of stuff. Everything you could think of: furniture, crockery, electrical goods. So, I need a new iron, so I've been on looking for a new iron. Just amazing random things. Like you could literally spend an hour browsing through this stuff. Violins, amazing ornaments, amazing Art Deco things. I mean, you could just spend hours browsing it. It's fantastic. And again, it's removing the barrier of having to travel to your local shopping. It's all there. There's just a showcase for you online, and it can be delivered. So very often, if we could get secondhand first as a slogan for Leeds, and get people looking to buy something that already exists before something new, the environmental impact is massive and the cost saving is massive. And if you're spending that money at a charity shop, then your money is going a very long way as well.
Exactly. I think as well, recently a big thing I've seen is people upcycling things. So instead of donating it, giving it like a fresh, like a paint, and maybe changing where it is in the house, or buying secondhand and then DIYing that a little bit and making it something a bit different. And at the end of the day, you've got something brand new in the house that you've not had to pay extreme amount of money for, and hasn't had a really bad impact in the environment as well. And that's something I've been doing a lot, because it's quite fun as well. And you look around and it's quite satisfying that, you've done that over there and that's your creation.
It's really therapeutic. And I don't think you take so much pleasure from something you did yourself. So I turned some bedside tables. They were really old. In fact, they were in the house when we moved in, right? So they were already secondhand. And I got some paint from Gills, which is recycled paint that they collect from the household recycling sites. They mixed it for me to the exact colour that I wanted. It is absolutely beautiful. Painted them, put new handles on. And I am so much more delighted with them, because I did it myself and I had fun, than anything I could have bought brand new. Just because, I did it.
Yeah, exactly. No, I completely agree. So obviously there's other things that we could do. So how do you find the mobility, or like transport wise in Leeds? Do you find that people use a lot more of the cars, or are we seeing a change in people using their bikes or public transport more? Or do you have any idea of what's going on in that sector?
Yeah, this is Rob's specialist subject. I'm so sorry that you're not able to talk to him today. But if you get a chance, talk to him about this, because he knows it inside out. So he gave up his car a few years ago. So they've got no car as a family. So they use public transport and their bikes. He's fitter than ever. You know, it does pose challenges, and he's in a car club, so sometimes he does need to hire a car for whatever he's doing. But he's a massive advocate for really committing to doing that, to using public transport more. And I think it's an unusual conversation to be having now, because people have been they're discouraged from using public transport during the pandemic, and I think people are still reluctant to come back to it. But on the other side, lots of us are working from home, so we're not travelling, and we've realised that we don't need to travel into the office every day, because we can work effectively from home. Whether that would continue into the winter months, I'm not sure. When you're sat at home and it's a bit cold and dark. But yeah, so, and I think there've been more cycle lanes, but and more pedestrianisation happened in the city centre during lockdown. But honestly, a conversation with Rob on this topic would be fascinating, because he's absolutely committed to it, to really cutting down on car use.
No, definitely. It's something that interests me quite a bit, because my family has been always very reliant on cars, and in Portugal it's really difficult to use anything but a car. And when I moved to England and I got my car when I was about 18, my boyfriend's family gave me a bike around the same time. So it was a bit of a message there. And then before I went to uni, I sold my car, and I have never had a car since, and I've not struggled, because it becomes a habit to look at trains, to look at buses, to look at cycle times to get somewhere. And you don't even give it a second thought, unless obviously you have to go quite far. And then, like you said, you can rent a car for the day.
Exactly.
So it's quite interesting, again, how it becomes a habit and the car is kind of put to the side a bit more. And so kind of, I guess, a last area to do with beauty kind of thing. So for women and men, shampoos, I don't know, masks, face masks, moisturizers and things like that. Is there a zero waste element to this as well? And is it becoming more prevalent in your opinion?
Yeah, definitely. And again, in Leeds, we have a lot of great shops now. So Ecotopia, Seagull's Refill Shop, and lots of other shops around Leeds that are selling sustainable products like that. And I tested out a deodorant which was from Seagulls, and it's the best thing. It's the best deodorant bar none, in that it's made of natural products. The packaging is all recyclable. It has lasted. I'm halfway through it, and I must have had it 6 months. And it works better than any deodorant ever. So again, trying these things out and learning from other people. So the next thing I want to move on to is a shampoo bar. So I'm trying to get good recommendations for that. But yeah, it's absolutely doable now, because these products exist and they are available to buy locally. And again, your money spent locally does go a long way. And I think, for men, things like going back to the old, like my dad used to do, have a shaving bar and a brush, instead of the aerosol cans for shaving foam, doing all. So you see there are lots of new innovations in this. Men's grooming has become so much more popular over the last few years, and there's so many innovations about more sustainable shaving blades and the shaving soap that you use. So this stuff, we're pushing forward all the time. Again, led sometimes by demand from customers, but we have it on our doorstep in Leeds. There are really brilliant local businesses with sustainability at their core that we can buy all this stuff from, and refills, like you talked about, doing refills for shampoo and conditioner. These things maybe do take a little bit more time and thought and preparation, because it's not immediate. You run out, and you're not straight online to order the next lot. You might have to think about when you're passing the shop. So you do have to maybe put a little bit more thought into it, but it makes such a massive difference. And when you discover that this stuff works as well or is better than the products you were using previously, then it's an absolute bonus. So you can feel good, look good, no excuse.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's like we've said the whole time. It's a habit, isn't it? It's knowing that you're close to finishing it, so you know that next time you go into the city centre or near your health food shop, you're going to take those with you just to refill. Same with kind of food waste, I guess. If you're coming to the near end of your rice or your pasta, to bring all of those things with you. And I've started to refill things in the past month or so. It had never crossed my mind, and it's still sometimes I forget, and then I have to come all the way back home to get my things to go back out. But it'll become a habit as well. And so if you were to give kind of, even personally, your 5 top tips for people at home, what can they do at home to become a bit more zero waste? Things that are just day to day you can do, which are quite easy to start with as well.
Yeah, so, I would say if you've got a garden or some outside space, composting, because you can compost all your veg scraps and things like egg boxes, shredded paper, all sorts of stuff goes in there. So it's really easy to do. And make it easy for yourself by having somewhere to store all of this stuff until you're ready to put it outside. So composting's great. Food waste, honestly, it's been a revelation. Meal planning, shopping lists, shop to your list. Eat what you buy what you eat. And use your leftovers. I'm the queen of leftovers. Use your leftovers. Join with someone like an organisation like us at Zero Waste Leeds, and share what you do and take from others what they do, because there's so much out there to learn. Textiles, please don't put them in your black bin. Find your local textile bank, charity shop, and get them there. And secondhand first. Secondhand first is the biggest impact you can have. Get into the habit of looking either in your local charity shop or online, and make secondhand your first choice, because that has the biggest impact. And you'd be amazed what's out there. You'd be amazed how much money you can save, and be amazed at what you can buy secondhand. Anything and everything. Like I just mentioned, Seagulls paint there. Seagulls paint is amazing. The whole experience of going to Seagulls paint and watching them colour match by eye, even seeing the surroundings they're in where everyone's covered in paint, it's absolutely incredible. And all of this stuff is on our doorstep. And that's what we try and get across at Zero Waste Leeds, is that it's just it exists, and we need to get the word out that you can do all of this here in Leeds.
No, exactly. I think it's important to before you buy something new, think whether you can get it in secondhand first. So even things, for at least a lot of people I know use like things like Depop, which people a lot just sell their secondhand stuff on there. Recently as well, I've been thinking about getting a bike, and I was looking at new bikes, and I thought, well, these bikes are ridiculously expensive. Let me look at secondhand, and there's
got Leeds Bike Mill.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just things you just don't think about, and then if you just stop and think, could I get this secondhand? I'd say that most things you can definitely get secondhand. Most of them are in pristine condition, never been used, or if they've been used, they have one scruff that you can easily just get it off yourself, and you get it for 70% of the price. And it's just really good to just stop and think before you buy. Yeah. So if we were to try and find Zero Waste Leeds online, where would you say the best places are to get information? Is it social media? Is it a website, Facebook?
Yeah, so I know not everyone's on social media, but it is a great way to amplify your message. And we've got a website, we're on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And once you start following people like us, all of those Facebook, Twitter and Instagram will show you other people to follow. And it is amazing. You do very quickly start to feel part of a community of people. Mm-hmm. And that's You know, anything we need to know, we can ask our community, and there's always somebody who's willing to share their experience, their advice, their top tips, and that's amazing and really powerful. So yeah, followers and others.
Definitely. I think it's becoming a big movement everywhere where people are wanting to be more sustainable and wanting to, make a big difference. So that's great. So we've actually got 2 questions to ask everyone at the end. So I'll ask you the first one. So what would you say is the most important thing that we can all do to be kinder to our planet? What would be the most important thing you'd say?
So, well, if we are living a sustainable life, because I liked your comment about how you can influence the people around you. So I think that's really powerful. So if you're on your living a more sustainable life journey, take other people around you with you, because it's genuinely the most powerful thing. Demonstrate to others what you're doing, tell people what you're doing. If I can influence my 14-year-old daughter to buy secondhand clothes, anybody can influence anybody else to do it, because that was not even in her, in any way in her mind. It's just, for teenagers, it's fast fashion. I want it now. I can have it now. There's probably a discount code. It'll arrive tomorrow. I can order 15 sizes and not worry about it. If I can influence her, don't underestimate the power of your influence. So live by example and get people to follow you.
No, brilliant. I think that's a really good answer. And it's also something I think people don't realize they have been doing perhaps their whole lives, where in my family, I was given hand-me-downs from my sister and my brother my whole childhood, teenagehood. And now, between me and my sister and my mum, we have such a big swap of clothes all the time, where I'm about to donate things, but I ask them first, or I ask friends first if they want something. And it's still happening now. And I'm sure that a lot of people in their own families do that, because it's a really normal thing to do. So it's just emphasised that a bit more, perhaps.
I think as I've got older, I realise how influenced I am by my grandma. So my grandma didn't waste anything, because she didn't have anything to waste. She had hardly any money all her life. So she didn't waste things because she couldn't afford to waste anything. Mm-hmm. And I remember I put a post on Facebook the other day, because she used to use her old pants as dishcloths. And when I was a kid, I just thought that was like, how could you possibly do that? And now I'm busy cutting up old T-shirts and things to use as dishcloths. So, her influence on me as a young girl, I'm living it now. So
no, definitely. Definitely. My mum started to, she has always done, where I see her get my grandma's old clothes or friends' clothes that they don't want anymore, and just takes them to the seamstress and gets them tightened in or changed a little bit. And at the end of the day, you've got something new. And, but it's been, I don't know, with my grandma, who's now in her 80s, so she's reusing it, which is fabulous. So that's great. And in your opinion, then, what does a kinder Leeds look like to you? What would you want it to look like, or what do you imagine it to look like?
You see, it's funny, isn't it? In my world of charity and social enterprise, and having worked in this world for the last 15 years, I think Leeds is a really kind place, because my experience is that there are so many people across this city who want to do the right thing, want to come together and want to support each other. So I feel really fortunate to work in an environment where that's my experience every single day. And it sounds a bit corny, but honestly, I just think it's that. I think Leeds is an amazing place. There are amazing people that we come across every single day. And I'll give you an example of a girl called Alice, who's a single parent struggling with the cost of school uniform. She lives in South Leeds. And 3 or 4 weeks ago, she set up her own school uniform exchange. She just launched it on Facebook, put a call out for donations. And she has just cracked on and done the most amazing thing. She's got 600 items of secondhand school uniform in, and she's distributing that. And that's what people in Leeds do every single day. Mm-hmm. And that's, you know, and I come across that all the time. So I think Leeds is a kind place, and I'm really excited for your for the festival, mm-hmm. and to take part in some of the events that are happening. So are you starting to tell people, can people book events and things in the next couple of days?
They're starting to be able to now. So it's in just over a month now. So we're just kind of finalizing things, and it'll be really exciting because it has become a bigger thing than we thought it was going to be. So I'm really excited for it. Yeah, definitely. I mean,
there's a real appetite for it, I think, do you? And I think during lockdown as well, I think a lot of us have been more involved with our neighbours and our local communities because we weren't going out. I know where I live, there's a right of way through our front garden, and I have talked to more people over the last 5 months who only live down the road from me because they're walking through and I'm out in the garden or whatever. And, you know, it is just lovely. So the power of community. If you have the opportunity to experience it, and hopefully through the Kindness Festival, you know, we will, and connect with other people like us that, you know, that we want to help and support, and they want to give their help and support to us. So
exactly, yeah, that's the whole kind of vision that I had last year when we started to discuss this. I just thought people just won't know about things unless they are shown them or educated on them, especially when it comes to sustainability and eco-friendliness. I mean, during my process of researching organizations, I found out so many things that go on in Leeds that I had no idea about, and it's unbelievable how much there is out there that if you just search for 1 second, you will find something that you want to get involved in. And obviously it's a really great community and everyone's really friendly and everyone wants to help. So it's just, people just need to get involved, just get out there and get involved, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a lot more to Leeds than people realize in terms of kindness in general, really, and all the themes that we're working with.
I think you're right. There are lots of hidden gems, and that's what we try and do at Zero Waste Leeds, is to use our platform to bring that to people's attention, and through the Kindness Festival, you'll do the same.
Exactly. Well, Gill, thank you so much for that. Honestly, I think I'm more passionate about it now after speaking to you about it. So thank you so much for your time and all of the information. And I hope that people get out of it as much as I did today as well.
Thank you. Nice to talk to you.
You too.